Yeah, communities were a lot more condensed. So if you were to find a Photoshop if you were to find a Photoshop community, it was strictly Photoshop, and that was literally all they did there. So it was more condensed, it was more cult like. So you had to be good before you could get recognition. Yeah. So that was pretty much my early years. I went into Uniben, dropped out of Uniben. Um, but Uniben for me was kind of educative in the sense that I got to interact with people outside of my curiosities, outside of my space. I hung out with artists, musicians, upcoming musicians actually. I hung out with people who had political ambitions. I hung out with cultists, some of which I didn't know back then were actually cultists. But it's as a designer, it's usually very important to have a life outside of pixel pushing because you are without connections with other people, you're an island, and an isolated island does not grow, it does not develop, it doesn't change, it does not evolve. Could you just excuse me 1 minute, please? Hello, Osage. Omochuchu been to carry last too. Man, all I give you. Like, wait, who else here went to Uniben? Like, if you went to Uniben, just like indicates in the chat. Oh, you're currently in Uniben. Oh, Eugene. Oh, that's true. Eugene also went to Uniben as well. Yeah. So when you're entering the school, there like I think that this 4 5 statues. It's like they are literally the same thing, but like different states of. God, I wish I had a camera to actually show you. So it's just like two rods, and then as you're going into the school, you notice that the rods are bending and bending and bending. It's in progression. I wish I had like a photo to actually show you. And students and basically everyone, they kind of saw that as an euphemism for what the school does to you when when you attend Unibe. You will bend. You will always bend. But back to what I was actually trying to say, my Uniben experience was very informative because, like I was saying, yeah, you as a creative, you you don't evolve by being alone. You don't evolve with the oh I can do it all mentality. I had a lot of friends that that were also that were also into computers and stuff. We were literally like a geek squad. There was an animator there. There was a software engineer that he was a software engineer. He later went on to MIT, got a scholarship, and became a professor. Crazy guy. I had this friend that was so good with hardware. Like the moment he graduated, like he came out with the first class. The moment he graduated, Slumige just took him. They didn't even. There was no interview. He just came, swoop him, took him. Before the school had like other ideas, but that's just to show you the kind of people that I actually associated with. So having a mixture, in um having a mixture in your associations, in your relationships, with a variety of people usually goes a long way to inform your design perspectives. How you approach design, how you see life, and especially if you're designing for users, it goes a long way to actually inform you as to the various types of people that you could potentially design for. So that is Well, my Uniband experience, ended rather badly. I repeated a year. After repeating that year, it pretty much just went downhill from there. 1 minute, please. Hello. So I was saying, I dropped out of Uniband. It wasn't a pleasant experience. Had to write jam again after 4 years in Uniband. Then I got into Covenant University. Covenant University was also an interesting experience as well, because I think that was when my skills as a creative person really really blossomed, and it did two things for me. Number one, while I was in Benin, I was focused on the craft, and that was what everyone knew me for. Everyone knew me as this really good Photoshop guy, very skilled, very experienced, and all that. But I didn't really know the business side of it. I didn't really know that there were certain things beyond just designing that I needed to have as part of my arsenal. My belief was okay. So my belief back then was that, oh man, I really need to really see Jesus Christ. Okay. So I have a feeling that, okay, I think I should start letting people become editors so that they can, get on. Just hang on, let me share my screen. Oh, okay. All right, so let me make a bunch of people editors so they can actually start if they want to start. Um, and also, if you have like questions you'd like to ask me, just like type them in the chat. I'll read them out and I'll do my best to answer them as well. Okay, so presumably everyone now can edit. If you want to start, you can start. So maybe what you can do is just like create pages for your designs, and then just name those pages after yourself. Then we'll be able to track how it's going. As soon as I'm done with my narration, I'll join in and then we'll continue this process. What I was saying concerning my time in Benin, my time in Benin was more into this, the skill side of things, but I never really understood, or I never really got to learn the business side of things. And it's also very important for you to know that always remember, design is not a destination, design is a journey, right? It's a journey of discovery, not necessarily for yourself, but you discover yourself, that's also awesome. But it's more often than not, usually a journey. So it's a journey and a process. So it's usually best to not rush it. You can't hack it. And it's from experience, I know this for a fact. Whatever it is that you think you're hacking, or whatever thing that you are jumping just so they can get to that awesome outcome or awesome results, that thing you jumped, it's always going to meet you at the front. It will meet you at the front. So um so in Covenant, when I got into Covenant, I was exposed to a more entrepreneurial atmosphere, because a lot of people, most of the guys were, rich kids. They were rich kids. They had, parental backing and more money that they had use for. So they were free to try out their hands at as many things as possible. Some of those things were, some of those ideas had potential. Some of them scaled beyond the school and became proper businesses, and others just, well, bad ideas funded by bad ideas funded by money. Let's just put it that way. But there was a very strong entrepreneurial community within the school. It wasn't necessarily formal, but there were a lot of people who were into networking, who were into conversations, who were into seminars, who were into businesses, and I got exposed to a lot more than I was used to, and that exposure was very relevant in informing. Well, I won't say informing though, but I think that exposure was very relevant in building like the basic foundations of my perception of how businesses, or especially design businesses, actually worked. So I managed to graduate from Covenant University. Well, before I graduated, how did I make a name for myself there? I noticed that everyone had laptops. Almost everyone had laptops, and I had just gotten my laptop, and there was Flash. Flash was still a thing back then. I mean, who remembers Flash? Adobe Flash. Nobody. Seriously, nobody remembers Adobe Flash. Oh my god. Yeah, the browser plugin that ensured a lot of animation and stuff happened. You know. So I want to show you one of those sites here that really piqued my interest back then. So you can only the site is no longer in existence, right? But thankfully, archive.org, you can actually find it there. Ah, it's gone. They flushed it. That doesn't make sense. No, don't do this. Don't do this. Ah, bloody hell. Ah, well, since it's been scrubbed. But there was a lot of flash animating. There was a lot of, yeah, I mean, it was a must to install, and I think it had to do with the fact that most browsers didn't want to they didn't want to come bundled with the plugin. Eventually, Steve Jobs released that hideous email that basically destroyed the Flash, and everyone just woke up in the morning and said that HTML5 and HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS was going to be the way forward, and they all just abandoned it. And that was cool for the time being. But how did I sell myself in Covenant University? I discovered that a lot of people had laptops and they all connected to the same network. And back then, if everyone back then, Windows network security was a little bit lax. So, well, yeah, Windows network security was a little bit lax, and then because people didn't have access to flash drives were still quite expensive back then. The easiest way to transfer between two computers is through wireless LAN. So you have to open up your system for someone to connect your wireless LAN so that they could transfer files there. And what I then did was I created a flash animated portfolio for myself. I don't know where that stuff is these days, yeah, but if I find it, I'll bring it up. I created a flash animated portfolio for myself, and then what I then did was that whenever I connected to the network and I encountered like an array of systems, what I would do would be that I'll copy that execute the portfolio into their public folders. So whenever they wanted to like exchange files or transfer files, they would see the files. And if someone is like folder surfing is basically you connect to a network and you're just going from system to system, from system to system, finding valuable stuff. So if anyone is folder surfing, they could just pick it up. And that was how I managed to spread my portfolio through like half or best, if I'm being, braggadocious, like a quarter of the entire school. And that was how I made name for myself. I made name for myself because I was able to set a different standard, a higher standard. I was able to hold myself to a higher standard. And the standard I held myself to was what I perceived to be the internationally accepted standard, not what was acceptable locally. So that was how I was able to differentiate myself. Granted, it was a guerrilla. Looking back, I think that was my first attempt at a guerrilla marketing, because what I did was tantamount to invasion of privacy. Well, tantamount to invasion of privacy. Abimbola, if I told you that I do not have a portfolio, believe me, I don't have a proper portfolio. I have tried several times to knock out a portfolio without success. This is the last one I worked on. Portfolio, that should be it. No way. Okay, I think this is capital F. There we go. Let me check on it. Has anyone started? Well, let's see. Ooh, okay. Someone has started. Nice, 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 nice. Don't forget, no curves. This is a curve, my guy. No curves whatsoever. Even your search self, no curves. If it has a circle, all I want to see is just rounded edges. Remember the rules, man. No curves. So you have to be creative. You have to be imaginative. Think. All right. So this is my Figma portfolio and the case studies that are currently available. We have Money Points, Monify, and Alum Unite. I think Monify would be this. Very nothing too adventurous, just design work and illustrations that we did, worked on the identity, worked on the illustration, type selection, and then the screens. We created like some kind of design systems. It was called no, it was at the time when I worked on it, it was called the design. We pretty much called it the design component library because at the speed at which we were moving at the time, we couldn't really start componentizing them and making it a standard. So we just called it Skyfall. And we worked on a variety of screens, a lot of designs, coding. I think this is like the metric style I was able to scrape off from the PM. And this stats was at 2 years ago. So they are kind of their old stats right now. Most of these figures have improved significantly. All right, so that's that about that. I'll just send you this so you can take a look at it. Mono with icons. So icons that essentially have a single thickness. Line icons, basically. So this should be the link. bit.ly/less feel. There we go. So while I was in Covenant, I had not linear line icons. Or outline line icons, if you may. Not fill/solid icons. Okay. While I was in Covenant, I met a good friend of mine, Deji Fashola, who would become my closest friend and eventually my business partner. So one thing I learned earlier was um, if if as a designer you want to venture into freelancing or into enterprise, or I mean into freelancing or into agency work, right? You need to build a network, and a very, very solid network, such that you don't need to go and hustle for work. And I think a lot of people are actually doing that, are actually doing it right now. Or they have like a steady set of clients that at any time they will always need work. And if they are not in need of work, they are referring you to people who will give you good work and good pay at the end of the day. And it's not something that comes with magic. It comes with building a very solid reputation of delivering not just beautiful stuff, but also delivering on value. So I had this I had this friend who made me realize that you, even as a designer, you can't do it on your own. You need help. You need people who will be able to take on the responsibilities of other things, or the other responsibilities of running an agency or running a business. Because when I was about leaving school, I had this brilliant idea that I would like to actually own my own agency. It's a fantasy that everyone must have held at some, especially those who have visual design backgrounds, right? So, ooh, okay, someone has already begun. Oh wow, nice, 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 nice. Someone has already begun. Good. So, but even having that dream or having that fantasy is not enough. There's a variety of things that you really, really need to know. So my advice to most people who just want to, oh, okay, after I've learned design to a fair degree, now it's time for me to make money out of it. Your first reaction should not be your first course of action should not be creating an agency. Your first action actually should be being an intern. Now, you'll notice that I didn't say find a mentor, right? Because in as much, and maybe that probably has to do with with the way I won't say with the way I was brought up, but I think it largely has to do with my journey. But because I didn't really have mentors, right? I still find mentorship as a strange concept. I still find it a strange concept because my expectations, back then was, I mean, if I could pick it up, then you should be able to pick it up. But mentorship is good, no doubt. But I am a firm believer of doing more than speaking. So if you want to learn more on the field, you need to be out there. And the easiest entry point for being out there is, finding a solid internship that aligns with what you want to do. So if you're a visual designer that wants to break into branding, shoot your shots, learn how to write code emails, build relationships with recruiters or people that are linked to recruiters, and then showcase, document your growth and your progress as a designer publicly, right? Document your growth and your process as a designer publicly, because it's what they see that they will remember, right? It's what and it's also important to remember that the first set of people that see your work, right, are usually your first evangelists. They might not necessarily be the people that will that will bring you money immediately, but they are often always the first people to mention your name to people that will bring you money. And that's very important. That's very, very important. So hmm, so I spoke with DG, and he told me that he had similar ideas, that he wanted to, he was down with it, and then decided to form ND Interactive. ND Interactive back then my was my baby. Was my baby, right? It was a company that I loved. It was a company I wanted to seek succeed. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned. Things did not go as planned. And this is where you find your boy. All right, so this is where you find this is where you find your first lessons in business. When we launched ND, our first instinct was to look for clients, people that would actually work with us, and we were mostly focused on branding, website design. We wanted to do it all: branding, website design, or other experiences, motion design. We did a lot of that. However, because we didn't have, this is not good, because we didn't have the right connection or the right link, so we basically suffered just to get clients in, and it was hard. It was really hard. It got to the point whereby it began to look as if people were inviting us to pitch just to fill quota, right? So it's very important to remember. It's very important to remember that, as a designer, especially when you're out there, don't expect favors. Like, everyone is out to exploit you, and so it's one of those things you need to keep in mind. Everyone is actually out there to exploit you. All right. So one day they called me, told me, "Hey, look, what's up? I have this guy who's interested in our business. He wants to be a partner. He wants to be a partner. Okay, what's he bringing to the table?" Said the website that we meet. So we met, and he pitched this really, really amazing pitch, right? Give us better. When someone like really, really bugas you, right? Just he washes you well. You buy it, you buy into his idea. That was essentially what happened to me. So I said, okay, no problem. We'll make you a partner. So we were then three. Base of operations was in the guy's house in Ikoyi, and we started working off there. But things started off looking okay, right? But things began to go south very quickly. There was always infighting. There was always problems here and there, and that was one of the places where I learned that if you want an effective team or an effective partnership, limit it to two, not three. Limit it to two, not three. Especially when you're starting out. Every other person who's going to be useful to that organization, hire that person or put that person on the contract. Well, you don't have to put everybody and make that everybody a partner. This was something I noticed with a lot of people who tried to start agencies back then. They will gather all their friends who are designer friends, one who is in emotion, who is doing this. You find that a partnership of like 6 to 7 people, only to then discover that man, there's always friction. It's always a problem. You can't get anything done. Good. You're getting it. You can't get anything done. Nothing effective is happening, right? So curves. You couldn't get anything done. Nothing effective was happening, and there was always infighting. Then we discovered that this third partner who brought us was basically shafting us. He would bring projects. He would call he'll bring projects. He'll say the project was like 150,000, and we will execute on the projects, and then only to now have the clients pay half, and we'll probably not hear from the clients anymore. But when in reality, what was actually happening was that we would agree on a price here. He would go out, make the client negotiate a separate price altogether. So let's say we probably agreed that okay, this is what's going to happen. We're going to charge the client 300,000. You go out, negotiate 700,000, come back, tell us that the client agreed for 200. I'm like, well, and then he would always add that, don't worry, this is the kind of client that will always, give us exposure. And I'm like, oh, okay. Kids never design for exposure. Never design for exposure. So, so he shouted us repeatedly, and we didn't know until it was too late. The money that we had kept as reserves, to run the company, we wanted to create like a business account so we could actually we could be chucking money there, but he somehow slowed down the entire process. Unbeknownst to us, the money that we had given him to store it on our behalf, he had eaten it. He had spent it all. So as a company, we were broke. We had no money. I just remember one morning I woke up, I didn't have money on me. I called one of my friends to send me money. It was his girlfriend that sent me money. And I went home to I went back home in tears because it was a really embarrassing experience. We later found out that all the deals that all the deals that we made, everything put together, we reached out to all the clients that we serviced, right? And we put all the money together. And during our 10 months of operation, we had successfully made like 6 to 7 million. 6 to 7 million as a startup company in 2012, 2013 or more. You were on the right trajectory. And that was the truth. If you were making 6 to 7 million as a startup in 2012, you're on the right trajectory. And God knows that if the idea had been allowed to grow, by God's grace, maybe we would have been dragging shoulder with Noah's Ark by now. Maybe, no guarantee, but maybe we would have been dragging shoulder with Noah's Ark by now. So what did I learn from that episode? I learned that it's always important to do your due diligence. It's very key. If you're going into partnership with anyone, even if it's your friend, always cover your bases. Always cover your bases. Cover the corners, cover your bases. Limit your exposure. Limit your exposure to yourself and limit exposure to your business. What does that mean? You are mitigating against risk or potential, risk outlets. Right. So you always have to like cover your bases. Always, create a structure of accountability and transparency, of checks and balances, so that people are not just moving assets around. People are not just moving resources around without your knowledge or without knowing what is actually going on or what's happening. So that was that. The company eventually fell apart after that. We almost resurrected. Yeah, we did some work for Old Mutual and the payout was loud, but instead of growing the company, we just pretty much shared the money. Deji went to Yankee to do his masters. I stayed back. I freelanced for a year. Things were not looking that great because I was freelancing from my mom's house, and I was just managing to cut it out. I was just managing to cut it out for 1 year. And it was painful. It was embarrassing, but I just stuck with it. Then an opportunity popped up. One of my old classmates, he had an agency. He was looking for a designer. He just called me up. Hey, what's up? Are you down? I'm like, yo, for sure. But he been staying at home all day. So that was how I found myself working at Syracuse. I worked at Syracuse for 10 months. We worked on Techno, Premiere Cool. Well, I think our primary brand back then was Techno, right? Just after I left, that was when Syracuse had the idea to create Hire Freehands. In fact, Hire Freehands is what is now Propel. If everyone's familiar with the brand Propel, Hire Freehands was something entirely different from Propel, but pivoting and evolution happened, and I'm really glad for the platform. So I transited from there, went to InterSwitch. I did my years at InterSwitch there. InterSwitch was very pivotal to me, especially as a product designer, because working in fintech, you get to meet. I think it's important that your first job should be a fintech job. If you're as a product designer, your first job should be fintech job. And the reason why I say that, I'm not saying it's law, right? It's just like it's just a personally held opinion. But the reason why I'm saying that is because your exposure. I don't think. Yes, that is true. Exposure is not a currency, but I don't think you will get as big an exposure anywhere else. Maybe maybe outside. mm, no, I don't think you get as big exposure anywhere else. Technical exposure, yes. Politics, yes. Um, Discipline, timeline, processes, team building. You'll be exposed to all those kind of things. And developer relationships, making sure that whoever it is that is working on your design is not cooking ewa going for you. So it was very, very informative, but I wanted more. I asked for more, and they told me that in order for them to give me more, they would have to promote me twice. There was no straight, clear career projection, career trajectory for me at Interswitch, so I left. I joined Team Apps, and this man looked at me, then the eye, and told me that, like he told me that money is something that makes everyone happy, right? And people are usually happiest when there is money, in their accounts. So it's not necessarily the money that makes them, and this was how he explained it to me. So it's not necessarily the presence of money that actually makes them happy. It's the potential that money presents, right? So imagine, for example, now you want to go to Maldives now. Bad as bad, you only need to save twice. Then get money and spending money don't set. You're off to Maldives, right? Now, I can almost say that a fair number of us here on this call cannot save 3 times before going to Maldives. Am I lying? Even me, save that 2 times save is very shaky. It's very, very shaky. But the way he pitched it to me, I was sold on the vision. He wanted to create products that made people financially empowered, that made people happy, And I was like, look, I'm game with this. If you make me happy, I'm a merchant of happiness. You make me happy, I make you happy. Looking back, that was a very stupid thing to say, but I said it, and we shook hands, and that was how I became a staff of at Team Apps, and I've been there for the past 5 years. I think next five no next today's 31st, the next 4 days will make it 5 years at Team Apps. So I think I've been able to describe, or at least I've been able to give like an abridged version of my lengthy experience as a creative. So at this point, I'm open to questions. I mean, there are definitely things I like skipped out, but yeah, I'm open to questions at this point. Okay, let me drop this here.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So, design-wise, how are you able to learn more and upskill? Because I feel like at probably 10 years of experience, you feel like you already know so many things. How do you learn more? How are you not stagnant? How do you get more design
Oh
ideas
God.
and stuff like that?
Oh God, look, so I won't say there's a system to it, but it's easy to get it's easy to get or to feel stagnated after a while, right? So what I do is, when I feel I have learned sufficiently enough in one field, I just drop it and I move on to something else, right? I started as Caveman, to answer your question. I started as a graphic designer before I moved on to web design, and before I decided to shed some work and stick with UI UX. So as a graphic designer, how did I start? I identified the things I needed to learn. I needed to learn things about CorelDRAW, blah blah blah. You know, CorelDRAW, get the tool, download the tool, look for resources online, teach myself about it. I learned CorelDRAW to a stable point that I was able to perfectly recreate anything I saw in CorelDRAW, like pixel for pixel. As soon as I was done with CorelDRAW, I looked at the internet. I saw like really stellar graphics, right? No, this thing has to be here. I have to find it. I really have to find it. Archive.org. There was this site back then. Dear Lord. Ah, God, I remember it just now. It just skipped my mind. There was Spoono. Spoono was a very good one. No. Okay, so I think this was a good example. Spoono was good. Kirupa was another good example. So it was just me essentially just identifying. Oh God, no, that's. It was just me essentially just identifying the things I needed to learn and then just continue proceeding to learn it. When I was done with, yes, good. I was looking for. So this was one of the places where I used to visit back then. So you go to the graphics section, you see things on Photoshop, Flash, Fireworks, 3D Studio Max, Mapodi, and lots of skins. Go straight to Photoshop, and then I just consumed as many Photoshop tutorials as I could find. Let me see. Another good place would be GameSpot, old GameSpot actually. Yeah, that's fine. GameSpot. So I'll show you some of the stuff that they where's the main GameSpot.com? Ah, come on, man. I actually just want to show like a specific around this period. What's it, 7? 4. Let's try 4. So let's try this. So there were like lots of tutorials. Oh, well, I don't know. Tutorials. Yeah, there were lots of tutorials to actually check out. And I just followed them all. I just followed them all. Yep. Continue to game sports. I think this is it. Ah. Oh God, no. Wrong place, man. God damn it. Oh, brilliant. Okay. I think. Oh no. Hold on. I think. Come here just to see it. Hmm. Is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Yeah, this is it. So they had this skeuomorphic type of interface that was always eye candy back then. So the moment I saw this, I knew instantly that first of all, you can't do this nonsense on CorelDRAW. So most of these visuals were done in Photoshop, at least to the best of my knowledge. They were done in Photoshop and then thinly sliced and then put together using some advanced level of HTML, JavaScript, and whatnot. So that was one way I actually used to always upskill myself. The moment I feel that I'm done with a particular knowledge, I just drop it, knowing that I can always come back and pick it up and like refresh my memory and then move on to something else. And then the most I think the more fun stuff where it actually happens is when you then start mixing these knowledge, when you start mixing this knowledge together, when you start connecting this knowledge to these information that you've acquired together to create something more, a lot more wholesome. My question about UX design: how did you become better at UX design and working with the fintech? I feel UX around often they're familiar, if not the same. But my question is, how do you improve in UX? So if for UX, yeah, I think the answer I'm going to tell you right now is it's pretty much nothing you must have heard before. But the truth of the matter is the only way you can actually improve in UX is experience. And what does experience entail? Continually doing the same work or doing the same work over and over and over and over again. So the more you do, the more you design as a UXer, the more your tastes or your design sensibilities improve, right? It's not static. It's never static, right? So you might not necessarily feel it, but I'm like, well, it's something you can definitely track. You can how do I put it now? You can bookmark your design skill today, right now, right? And then check in like 3 months time. And I can guarantee you within that 3 month space, for as long as you are always practicing and you're always doing something design related, at the end of that 3 month period, you will see a significant growth. When I left Uniben, right, I had this friend of mine that told me something, that pretty much helped me. He told me something that, look, as you're going home, you have a computer at home. I say, yes. Design something every day. It doesn't have to be nice, it doesn't have to be pretty, but design something every day, keep it. The following day, look at it, design something better than that thing. Right. So I think what you can take from that is that one way to challenge yourself is by framing your mindset in such a way that your best design is your next design. Right? Your best design is your next design. That way, you know that you're not looking outside. You're not looking. Your competition is not outside. Your competition is within. That is how you consciously and intentionally develop yourself. It's all about the mindset at the end of the day. But what I just described is one way by which you can actually do it. Just to get to I feel like UX around fintechs are similar. Yes, majorly similar. Yes, actually, because fintech is not a space that inspires a lot of, in quote, creativity, right? And this is mostly due to the nature of the stakeholders or the companies that are responsible for fintechs. We are talking about money. We're talking about banks. So there's a level of you can't be too casual, right? And most of the fintech products out there, they're pretty much doing the same thing. And the core, even, they're pretty much doing the same thing. So it's only normal for the UX around these products to be familiar or to be similar, right? So I think I've answered that. So to get your opinion, how do you think that there are many designers in Nigeria? I think that there are a lot more designers in Nigeria than when I started, than 5 years ago. Even there are a lot more designers, but but that response, that answer does not undermine the insane demand for designers in companies, because you could say that, oh, there are too many designers, oh, how will I shine? There is almost always one company that is looking for design talent. Do you understand? There's almost always one company that's looking for design talent. So I don't think you should be dismayed in any way. Any more questions? Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I have another question for you.
Go ahead.
Over the years, you've had multiple clients, right? How do you handle ones? how do you know how to, there are two questions in one. How do you handle difficult clients, and how
Mhm.
do you, let's say, increase your price?
Okay, so
Because
pricing, yeah,
yeah, exactly. After a certain amount of years, you probably don't want to charge the way you were charging before. So how do you present it to clients that, okay, I want to charge this much? Because it might even be a returning client that you
right,
probably
yeah,
charged 100K, and now you feel like you're worth 300K. How do you tell that client that, okay, now I'm worth 300K, and it would
and
just seem like you just want to collect their money?
what do you tell them? You simply tell them that, look, economic realities have made me to upwardly review my pricing. So this is the current score, this is the current price right now. And if the client, it's not up to the clients to now decide to stay or go. But here's not the trick. Because the client understands the value that you're providing, and you understand the value of the service that you are providing, and the value that the service you provide for his business, they'll pay. That's if the client is actually serious. If not, then they walk. And if they walk, if you would, I think if they walk, it's better for you because what's the word? How do I phrase this now? It's better for you to work on a project whereby you won't feel bad. You won't feel bad for taking, you know, for being underpaid. It's better for you to work on such a project than for you to start chasing clients and say, oh, okay, so if you want to pay 300K, how about 120? You can pay 120. And then you don't. If the client is unable to pay, then let them walk, right? But that's not to say you should rule out negotiation. At the end of the day, if you're going to negotiate, negotiate a fair price for yourself. Now, to the question of raising raising price and whatnot. There was a trick I came about, or well, I won't say came about actually. There was a trick that I formulated. So what I did back then was I noticed that I was charging 5,000 naira for logos, 5,000 naira, maybe 10,000 naira for album art. Album art was the thing back then. I was charging like 10,000 naira for like album art and things of that nature. And I discovered that even as low as those fees were, they weren't really people weren't really taking me seriously. So what I did was I said to myself that, you know what, here's what is gonna happen. Every 3 months, I'm going to double my rates. Right? I was gonna double my rates every 3 months. And that was exactly what I did. I doubled my rates every 3 months. So if I was charging 5,000 naira initially, I'll double my rates 10,000 naira. After another 3 months, I'll double it 20,000. After that, 40,000. After that, 60,000. After that, 80,000. I doubled my rates to the point where I started charging 250,000 for visual identity. For full on branding, I was charging like between 600 and 700,000. And I did not bulk, I did not blink on my pricing. I didn't blink on my pricing. If I'm able to pay, sorry, bro, I will happily recommend you to someone who will be, who matches your price, right? But I would, I did not want to compromise. I didn't want to compromise on. I didn't want to compromise on my price because if you look at the economics behind it, there are a lot of. It's not. It goes beyond you just saying, "Oh, I want to design an app." You're gonna pay for lunch, you're gonna pay for internet, right? You sitting down extensively, for hours on end in front of your laptop, you are using a resource, you are using your body. Your back is gonna hurt, your eyes are going to, your eyes are your eyes are gonna hurt, your back is gonna hurt. You will need to take care of yourself, right? So all these factors of production, as a designer, you are considered yourself a factor of production, but all these factors of production need to be properly paid for. So that was one of the reasons why I did my best not to compromise on pricing. If he's unable to pay, recommend it to someone else. But if he's serious and wants the best, and you're confident in your ability to provide the best, he will pay and you will deliver. That's that. For handling and dealing with clients that what's the word? Handling difficult clients, right? Well, everyone wants to avoid difficult clients, and you can't really blame them. But here's the thing. Um, there are levels to difficulty when it comes to this client's game. The levels to difficulty when it comes to this client game. There are some clients who you just simply have to be patient with, right? These are people who they're not being difficult they're not difficult by nature. They are just unfamiliar with how things work. They might be elderly, so you have to explain to them over and over and over again. So it just requires patience on your own end. They are not inherently, they are not wicked. They simply just don't know, and it's an innocent error on their part. Now you go to the next level, you find clients that are people who have been burnt by other designers. So they want to micromanage you. They want to take ownership of you, right? They want you to do, they want to be able to access you at any time that they like. So one way to actually do that is to, first of all, when you're dealing with this kind of clients here, you have to really like observe them, try and get a feel of who they are, and then set up a system earlier on, much earlier on, right? Much earlier on, for checks and balances. And the reason why you have to do it earlier on is because these it sets a precedent for how your relationship with the client is going to progress. Do you understand what I'm saying? It sets a precedent for how your relationship with the client is going to progress. So if at the beginning you lay down the law that, look, I'm only going to do 2 revisions for you. Anything beyond that point, you're going to pay, right? By the time you set down these laws down, you're basically training the client on how to behave, when it comes to you. People are looking to like you, and you really don't need to like your client. Both of you are here for a business transaction. Once that transaction is done and you deliver your end and he has paid his end, you move on. So you then go to the next level. This level of clients are hell spawns. And it takes extreme patience to want to deal with them. I have found myself in scenarios where I've had to work with really, really difficult and really, really tough clients. And in some situations, the project never completed. In other situations, I had to walk away from the project because it just wasn't adding up to me. In very, very few of those scenarios did I ever finish the project. So when you find yourself in those kind of scenarios, I think it falls on you as a designer to check the cost implication of continuing with that sort of client. If it's going to cost you more money, if it's going to cost you your sanity, if it's going to if it's going to cost you your peace of mind, right? And I'm not encouraging you to be lazy, right? I'm not saying fire your clients. No, there are some clients that require you to actually put in the work, and that's fine. The demand for excellency it's not an offensive thing to ask your designer for, but it also doesn't mean that you should be difficult as well. So if you encounter such a person, be able to walk away. Okay, so let me see, to answer your question, ZJL, is that Zack Snyder's Justice League? Like, actually, if that means Zack Snyder's Justice League, I swear we're going to be friends now. We're going to be friends now. Doubling your rates didn't chase your clients away or anything. Definitely, it's going to chase some clients away, right? And that is fine. That is fine, because sometimes you need to shed some weight. Sometimes you need to shed some weight. Oh, make it pop clients. No, those people there. Make it pop clients, I think usually for I think they're like, you can find some make it pop clients in like, you know, level 1 or level 2 difficult clients. Make it pop clients are people that you have to actually invest in the, you know, design education. You actually have to like talk to them and tell them that, look, you know, you have to inform them. You have to teach them that, look, this making pop behavior is not the best for your brand. No, like your imagination or whatever it is that your wife or your cat likes has nothing to do with how people are going to perceive your brand. Yes, you are in a good position to know what your brand, you know how people perceive your brand, but that's it. If you knew how to create it, you wouldn't have hired me. So you can give me feedback, and you can critique my work based on historical data or evidence that you possess. But if your rationale for a particular design decision is how do I put it now? The rationale for a particular design decision is, I don't like it because my wife doesn't like it, or I don't like it because my cat isn't feeling it, or more, man. Please be going. Just be going.
All
Okay.
right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There's still one other question here. It says, as a beginner, will YouTube be the best option to learn graphic design?
So during my time at Ovalay, I've learned like a variety of things. Yeah. One of the things I learned is that people learn differently. For some people, YouTube works. For others, not so much. YouTube is always a good place to start, right? But some people actually require a more hands-on approach when it comes to learning design. And if they don't get that approach, they will struggle. Some prefer physical hands-on. Some are okay with virtual. Some people are okay with YouTube. So there's no single correct entry point to learn graphic design or to learn any form of design. You can learn design from any of these approaches. All right. So good. Good.
All right, thank you very much.
You are
Um,
welcome.
if you have any more questions, we would like you to drop it in the next 1 minute because we like to round up. So if you have
Oh,
any more questions, you could just drop that.
let me see. How are these people actually progressing? Man, I've not even started one. They've already gone far. This was an exercise that I was supposed to participate in, but I just, I lost track. But here goes.
You can unmute yourself if you want to talk. So you could ask your questions.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Please, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
All right. So I just wanted to ask about some of these job roles that tend to want to like almost combine maybe like more responsibilities from other niches, and
Mm-hmm.
they're posting in a particular role. So it's a question of like, okay, is it really on my part that okay, I should wear many hats? Because you see jobs now, okay, they can basically post a job for a graphic designer, but then
Mm-hmm.
you read through the job description, you see that you have to do stuff about illustration, motion design,
Mm-hmm.
and like web design or some things like that. So like, is it basically on a designer's part to wear many hats so you're just able to fit into any role or actually stick to any shape? That's my question. Thank you.
So wow, this is a question, and it's a very interesting question because I find myself in scenarios whereby I've had to wear multiple hats, and I find myself in scenarios whereby I had to reject wearing multiple hats. I think um so you could look at it from one angle, from the angle of your you could look at it from the perspective of the company itself. The company obviously is trying to squeeze out as much value as they can manage from you as a person, right? So how do you then manage that? Do you want to learn more skills in order for you to keep the job and deliver more value? And then, are these skills that you want to learn, are these skills pivotal to your eventual career growth? Is this something that's going to help you grow and manifest yourself better as a designer? These are these are very interesting questions, actually. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have a straightforward, clear-cut answer to that question. I don't think I do. I don't think I have a straightforward answer to that question. But I do know for a fact that if if the company requires you to actually possess certain skills, if you do not have those skills, you don't necessarily have to apply, because here's what will happen if you apply and you are accepted and they demand those skills up from you from the get-go. First, you'll be frustrated, and and because you are not matching expectations, they will just push you out. That's scenario one. Scenario two would probably be they hired you, you're already in, but you came in as a graphic designer, but you already find yourself doing video editing and social media, and the next thing you know, you see yourself doing product design somehow, just by association. I mean, just because you're a visual designer. In that scenario, talk to them. Because they can't just keep throwing things at you. Bring it up, say, stand your ground. Let them know that you can't do all these things, number one, or even if you can do it, but this is not the expectation. This is not why I was hired. This is not stated in my contract. So if you are adding new responsibilities, and this is where you have to start negotiating. If you're adding new responsibilities to my job, then that means it has to reflect either in salary or benefits or bonuses, right? You can't just expect me. You can't just expect me to just pick up, a new skill that probably doesn't even align with what I want to do, and then to learn it, and then to deliver value on it, and then you're still paying me the same salary. How about now? It's not right. It's not done. So that's just my thought on that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's get this party started. Slightly started at least. All right, so let's see who's asking questions again. Add a new reminder. Does it mean add a new task? No, actually, I mean, I think it can be add a new task actually. So you notice I wrote either task or reminder or to do. So.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening.
Yes,
Please,
sir.
I want to ask.
Yes.
As a designer, is there sincerely for the future? Is there a threat with artificial intelligence on being a designer? So what do I mean?
So
When you have almost everything doing layout,
okay,
doing everything.
so first of all, here's the thing: don't even worry about AI. AI is not fully developed to the point where it will take your job. It's not yet time. That's number one. Number two, it's not the first time that they've actually boasted about AI. There was a product back then to called Grades. The premise behind Grades was that you could literally tell Grades what you wanted and to generate a website for you. Bam, fully production ready website. Within cast. So it's not the first time they are trying to automate a designer's work out of the market. Sure, you understand. So, and even at that, you still at some point need, human intervention when creating certain artifacts or when creating certain designs, because machines, for all their intelligence, will not always get what you want. That's the honest truth.
So at least for the next 30 years, we should be relaxing.
I wouldn't say for the next 30 years, but I think we are good for the next 10.
10. That's this one. Okay. Thank you very much. So,
All right. Okay, I want to do this. So I want to create reminders, right? Let me first of all design how a typical list would look like. A typical list would probably have 2 states or 3 states. Let me take this from here. I honestly want to change this font. It's too happy. Let me change it. There's another Noya. Yeah, there we go. Oh, Machina, that work? Let's do. No, 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 no. Let's not do this. Because if we did this font, then nope. If we did this font, it would raise serious problems because we can't guarantee that this is a really legible font. So I think we might stick with Machina for now. Yes, let's manage Machina. Oh boy. Does this help my situation? Do it. Make it a little tighter. All right. So if we have this, you just make the required changes. Check that. There we go. So let me just copy this property, paste it here. Say my list, I guess. So let's say, let's look at the potential list name, right? And remember, we only do 2 colors. So let's give this list a good name. Reduce the size to an even, make it like 18 or some shit. So see school, okay, meeting reminders. So for this, how do I make this make sense? Typically, I should use a box, maybe around here. Reminders. Let me duplicate this box. Just do this here and here. Turn it this way and reduce it. Is that what I want to do? Nah, at this point, it just looks like art. Well, let's keep it outside for now. I'll figure out what to do with this. So meeting reminders, we want to know how many tasks are inside here. So let's just say task. Do I want to do that? No, that's not the best. Oh, maybe. Okay, just say 10, 12 tasks. 12 tasks. Keep it there. Raise this a little bit. So we have 12 tasks here for this meeting reminder. Let me take a triangle. So I'll just turn it this way. Copy this style here. Paste it. But what I want is, I mean, I'm literally just doing I'm doing this, I'm doing a lazy approach. Does anyone like have any other questions you want to ask me? Please be free. DG, how far? You're raising your hand.
Sorry, I've raised it before. I forgot to take it off.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. So, I mean, I think this is a good point to actually drop off. Anyone that wants to, this is a good point for us to actually end the meeting if you wanted to end it. Tomorrow is Monday. Everybody rest. But if you're able to continue with the task, please continue. You can send me the completed results. You can send me the completed outcome on social media, or I mean, if you know how to reach me directly, you can reach me direct.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I want
I know what.
If you want to reach out to Leslie after the call, the link to his socials are in the chat. You could always reach out to him there.
Okay.
To submit your designs, ask questions, and all of that. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel because the recording of this session will be posted there during the week. So you could, go back if you need to learn or listen to them. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week, same time.
Well, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure hanging with you guys, and this was nice.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, bye.
Have a nice day.
I mean, like, if you guys want to hang back in the call. I mean, you can stop recording if you want, but hang out in the call and let's just knock out this design together. That's if you want that. If you don't want that, that's cool.